Hello, everyone. Very happy to be in Miami. I want to hear a cheer for Miami. And then, first of all, I want to say thank you to the International Economic Forum and the World Strategic Forum, the Remir family, for making this event happen. It's a fantastic forum, so I'm very honored and proud to be on their advisory board. So let's talk about family office for a minute. So the year is 718. That is actually the first family-owned company that is actually still in existence today. So they went to 46th generation. It was a small hotel. It is a small hotel in Japan. And they have seen about everything from the printing press to the fall of the Mongol Empire to the fall of the Mayan Empire. They went through World War I, the discovery of a new continent, World War II, and so on. So they have a family-owned business that survived over that long time period is actually very impressive in the way of endurance and adaptability. So I'm a big fan of family office because oftentimes they start with an industry that they're very, very well versed into and eventually go to another industry or do a family to actually be able to do other industry or invest in other industry to mitigate their risk. So I am very happy that we have a family office panel. And the family office can actually be from the royal family because they have that long lineage, or it can be from a different industry, a new industry that, like the hedge funds family that we will hear about. So we have with us 3 different family office that will be very, very insightful for all of us. So I want to ask Neil Green as the moderator to welcome those families. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. My name is Neil Green. I'm the president and CEO of Jabway Productions. And Jabway Productions does global events worldwide for family offices, registered investment advisors, and other high net worth individuals. So I'm extremely happy to be here to introduce the 3 esteemed panelists, and we'll start with a quick introduction, and there we'll go into some great questions and answers to educate and inform the crowd here of what's going on. So with that, Ken?
Hi, I'm Kenneth Drummond. I'm the CFO of the Paul Tudor Jones Family Office. I've been in the family office world for about 30 years now, and this is my 4th family office that I've been in. In the previous family offices, I was with Calvin Klein Family Office, Estee Lauder Family Office, and then the Johnson & Johnson Family Office for the last 15 years.
I'm Larissa Miller. I'm CEO of Phoenix Global, an investment and consulting firm looking at projects around the world, working with high net worth individuals to make meaningful investments in the field of sustainable development, energy, agriculture, and transportation. I spent many years in Abu Dhabi with the royal family there, and can represent the global perspective on the importance and significance of family offices and multifamily offices moving into this transformational future.
Great. Matt?
Hi, good afternoon, and sorry I can't be with all of you today. Again, my name is Matt Salloway. I run a family office called GSI Ventures. GSI stands for Growth, Sustainability, and Integrity. I work for a branch of the Saudi royal family. I've been working with them now for about 10 years. And as CEO of the family office for about 5 years. I started my career as an attorney, so was an advisor for family offices and for the family, and then transitioned now into the CEO.
Terrific. So I thought to kick things off, let's just kind of, for the audience here, give a brief explanation of what a family office is and a little bit about how they're structured. So with that, Ken, if you can do your best to tell everybody how that works.
Sure. I guess there's a saying in the industry, if you've seen one family office, you've seen one family office, because it really depends on the level of sophistication of the number of assets the family has. It can start off, even when my first entree into the family office thing, I didn't even really know what it would be called, if it be called family office. I think nobody knew. As the years progressed, more and more conferences, more and more people in the industry have become more standard and more recognized that the family office is a really substantial industry now. You can really just start off, a lot of times it's a company, a family has an operating business, and you come in and you're helping with the principal's business. They will help you with their personal finances, and a lot of times, the family office will get bigger if there's a liquidation event. If they sell the company, now the company is flush with assets. What are they going to do? How are they going to handle their tax, impact of the sale? How are they going to invest their assets now that they've had a huge liquidity event? So it's just like you can have, and people who have, inherited wealth. So it's just like their family office would be strictly, your investments, your bill paying. They usually generally have multiple homes, aviation assets. So you really get involved with basically everything the family does, taxes and estate planning. So you're there to handle everybody's personal needs on a much higher level, on an ultra high net worth scale.
Larissa, what would be your explanation?
Well, it allows meaningful investment amongst those that have the wealth to really make an impact. And more, I find that family offices are looking at impact as much as return to be able to make a meaningful contribution to the overall sustainability moving forward. And they all may have a different focus, or it just may be that they're looking for interesting new technologies around innovation, different levels of risk, risk assessment, risk management. I said earlier this morning on a roundtable that I spoke at, we're never going back to normal because normal was the problem. And, the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones. It ended because of progress. And it's going to take individuals with an appetite for innovation to really pave the way in this very transformational future, and to be able to invest at different levels and different stages of growth. And I think that's really where most of the meaningful investment is going to come. Nothing is as vulnerable as entrenched success. You can ask some of the big multinationals that were around 20 years ago and aren't around anymore today. And innovation almost never comes from within an industry. Just ask Uber and Airbnb and so forth. And this allows us to take individuals with an appetite for investment and the funds to make those meaningful investments and really be the ones paving the way for the disruptive technologies that will set the stage for the future.
Great. Matt, how would you best describe what a family office is?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that was said. I tell people oftentimes what I do when I say I work for a family office, and people think I work for my own family's business, because there isn't that much knowledge of what a family office really does. And I do think that there are very nuanced structures and definitions based on the family's needs. We spent a lot of time coming up with our name. 5 years ago, when I started the family office with the Prince, we decided, what do we want to represent? And GSI, which again stands for growth, sustainability, and integrity, those were the core pillars that we came up with. But every family will have a different definition and different needs. But essentially, the way I look at it is it's a structure that protects your capital, whether you want to grow it, you want to preserve it, whether it's a little bit of both, having your personal affairs managed, and also potentially having a business that, sometimes there are private equity businesses within the family office that are sometimes parallel to what the family does. So it's really about protecting, safeguarding, and growing the assets of the family for the long term.
Great.
And also, I'd like to add, it's like you want to avoid the rags to riches to rags in 3 generations. It's really about wealth preservation. It's about family governance. It's about bringing the next generation into the business, or just, into, now that, you have high net worth, it's like, how do you develop that? How do you, if you have the one generation that's created wealth, you have the other generations that have inherited. So it's governance and getting the families involved so they don't lose the capital. So it's like primary, goal number one is we made the money, let's not lose the money.
Right. So let's get into the tough part. So the topic of this presentation is about family office investment strategies for the future. So with that, my first question is, how did COVID-19 affect how you invest for the future? Start with Ken.
Well, the COVID-19 actually changed the whole work environment too. It's like we are still not back to the office, so working remotely, it's had its own challenges, but I think it's actually helped the efficiency and communication of the office in being able to work remotely and then having access to the people, at any time to prepare, and we don't have to be, you're not centrally and you're not locked into an office. So I think, COVID has really made the work environment much different and really just what you invest in, because, we've never seen a world change so much in 20 months that the things you thought were safe investments might not be anymore.
Marissa?
What COVID has shown us is that our business community is no longer the proximity of where we live. It's now the entire globe. And therefore, we have a collective mandate to be looking around the world for the solutions, the optimizations, the innovations that will be those compelling investments that will carry us forward. And for family offices, it's very important that we're not investing for them, but with them, and that they are a part of that process and that they understand it, because to that point, it is about building generational wealth and using the catalysts of today to really shape the investments for tomorrow.
Right. Matt?
Yeah, no, I think for us, we're a global family office. So we have offices in Saudi Arabia, New York. We have an office in Tokyo. So COVID, look, it's a problem when you're a U.S. and you're split out, on the East and the West Coast, but we're a very global family office. We had to make sure we could communicate, that we could sort of do what we do without having to be in person. And Saudi culture, too, is a very kind of in-person culture. A lot of things get done face-to-face. So we had to mature and adapt and grow with that. And I think, thank God for technology, obviously, allowing us to be able to be global and continue our operations very efficiently. And obviously, finding new strategies that we believe are opportunistic in the new world we live in. So we invest, most asset classes, but technology is a big one, and we look for ways the world, is changing, how we can sort of find the right investment synergies and strategies to fit the world and where we're headed. Right. So I think it's been a huge evolution for us in a positive way.
So nobody expected a pandemic to kind of shake things up for the future, but let's talk about this. So going forward, what are you doing to mitigate risk for the future?
I guess really just investing in different asset classes that are not necessarily prone to pandemic issues, and just be more diversified. It's the current family I'm working with is like, it's the difference between my prior family. It was like we invested all of their assets. The family I'm working with now, the bulk of the assets, the bulk of the wealth is still in the active business, still in the active trading. So what we have to do is we have to actually clear everything through. There's a Chinese wall between the hedge fund investment world and the quant world and what we do for the family office. So we're maintaining their assets, a much less allocation of the entire portfolio. So we look for much more stable investments than what he is actually trading in his portfolio for the company that he's running.
Right. Marissa, to mitigate risk?
There are industries and sectors that will remain constant given the stressors that will appear unexpectedly on our radar. Logistics is forever going to be one of the most important aspects. I focus a lot on agriculture, and there won't be another investment in any industry or sector that will make sense if we can't feed ourselves. So there are certain elements, aspects, and industries that will stay constant, even given the stressors, but it's finding those key investments, those new strategies, those new innovations that will allow you to be a vanguard moving forward, rather than caught in the cyclone of whatever it is that we're facing in an immediate situation.
Matt?
Yeah, no, I agree with it. And not to be redundant, I agree with everything that was said. Though I guess the one thing I would add is, in a COVID world, it's hard to meet new managers. And you see a lot of families, a lot of institutional investors are investing with the same investors or same managers that they've known over the years. So there's exceptions, obviously, but a lot of times people get to sort of get familiar with one of their managers and they keep going. They have a relationship, a track record. What we try to do is meet as many managers as we can. You're saying, how do we mitigate risk? Well, it's to keep evolving. It's to keep having as many alternatives and as many opportunities that we can source and diligence. And if the world shuts down again, then we have those relationships to activate without having to be in person. If there's an issue with meetings or in-person travel. So I think we're doing everything that we can to be diversified and find ways to unlock value in the world that we live in.
Right. So we talked about mitigating risk. So what does that mean for your asset allocation model at this point? Maybe talk about percentages, not specifics on what you're investing in, but give me a breakdown of where you're allocating the monies to do that for mitigation and for growth for the long term.
Well, again, for this family, I was saying the predominant value in the portfolio is in the active trading strategy. If the family office is, I would say, maybe the personal assets are 40% outside of what the active trading is. So within that 40%, we do have a lot of real estate holdings, and we do income growth, income allocation, and then I'd say about 20% in growth.
Larissa, what does your model look like?
No, it's the same. Active trading, focusing on growth, making sure that we have those stable long-term investments that may not have the greatest immediate ROI, but allow us to be able to then step into some investments that are a little bit riskier but have the potential to have the strongest yields and returns.
Matt?
Yeah, we're bullish on technology, and you look at the Yale endowment, which many people believe to be the gold standard in asset allocation. They put over 20% of their portfolio into VC, into tech. We're very, very similarly minded in that we believe, VC, alternatives, technology is a place where we can get outsized returns. So one of the things that we did, and this was pre-pandemic, is we started our own venture fund because we were investing into tech companies, mostly in North America. But given our sort of strategic and unique access into the Middle East, we were able to help companies we invested in grow into that part of the world. So we found that we were getting more and more access to, because again, it's all about access to some of the best deals in North America. So we ended up starting our own fund called SIP Global Partners, which we launched with two partners also in Tokyo. We got an anchor investor, one of the largest global telecoms based in Japan as well. And long story short, we're very bullish on technology. Late seed, early growth, even secondaries. We really believe that there's an opportunity to provide outsized returns. If you can understand sort of how to diligence the opportunity, how to get access, it can really add a lot of value to the portfolio. And that's sort of how we're focused at the moment.
Right. So another hot topic is on the landscape of politics. How is politics affected and the political landscape affected how you're investing?
That's a tricky one, man.
I'm glad you're first.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's politics. I don't know. We're kind of agnostic policy-wise, politics-wise. So it really hasn't had as much impact on how we look to invest. We're more for solid assets. Low-risk assets we're going. We're looking to build our real estate portfolio, monetize our real estate portfolio because we have properties over 5 continents. So it's when politics, it's not just the U.S., it's global politics when you have properties all around the world.
Exactly. Larissa?
Well, and that's it. Having been, I'll say, a global citizen and investor for so long, it's really agnostic to the politics of any one particular country. You really have to build and maintain those relationships around the world. And I think that's where we can provide a very unique value for the families that we advise and invest on behalf of when we have those solid relations that we maintain around the world. That sort of gives us an entree when we have the the needs that may have a political ramification. So.
Matt, how's the political landscape helped or hurt you?
Look, I think there's always ebbs and flows. There's changes, and you kind of have to do the best you can to adapt and accept what you cannot change. And we are a global investor. We, as I mentioned, in technology, there's a lot of global relationships. So we invest a lot in North America, being a bridge into the Middle East as well as into Japan. And the administrations, the political administrations, both domestically and internationally, impact the ease and efficiency of doing business between countries. Sometimes there's additional CFIUS, there's a different additional regulatory issues. So look, for us, I think we're investing at a very high level. We have very good partners in those parts of the world, and regardless of the political administration, I think we're able to navigate it the best way possible. So we just have to be mindful and understand where the world's headed and try to adapt the best way possible.
Right. So Larissa and Matt, obviously more importantly, you work with a lot of international exposure. What are you doing to look for international opportunities, even potentially investing offshore? Are those things that you're considering, or how does that look right now?
No, it's about staying on top of what's happening around the world on an absolute daily basis, both politically, but more importantly, what are the innovations, the R&D, what are the strategies that are emerging in the global marketplace that will enhance an existing portfolio and really allow us to be a part of the shaping of the solutions, which carry usually, if you do it well and you understand what you're looking at, you can get a very strong return out of that. So it's just about making sure that every day you know what's happening around the globe and infusing that into your investment strategies.
Mm-hmm. Matt?
Yeah, we have a global portfolio. On the tech side, I'd say about 20% of what we invest in is outside of North America, and that's everywhere from Europe, the Middle East, Israel, Southeast Asia. But the lens that we look at, for example, a tech opportunity in Southeast Asia or in Saudi or in the Emirates, it's very different than the way we'd look at an investment in North America. There's just different realities. There's different opportunities for exit. So, one of the most important things a family office can do is just have the right experts and the ability to sort of adapt and be able to analyze investments in other markets. So, we're also invest in public markets. The Saudi stock market's different, obviously, from the U.S. Sometimes there's abilities to make, a lot more money in a shorter time period, but there's also the ability to lose a lot more money. Again, I think we have the right infrastructure to look at opportunities to try and balance sort of the pros and cons in each decision that we make. That's in the best interest of the family.
Right. Which leads me to the next question is, how are you actually sourcing investments?
Sourcing, again, it's building your network. It's having relationships with, again, my 4 family offices still keep in touch. You build your network, and you get the trust, and you talk to your colleagues, and you can do your due diligence. But it's really networking, and when you're in a high net worth, ultra high net worth field, it's like you do have a lot of very influential friends that can get you access to funds that are typically closed to many investors. So it's really building your network to source new deals.
Larissa?
That's absolutely the truth. And it's about, coming together and working with one another, because we will all have different perspectives and different access to opportunities. And when you know that you have a family office that has a particular appetite that may not be within your portfolio, you don't diminish yourself in any way by sharing opportunities. You actually enhance yourself. So it's about infusing collaboration into the family office investment strategy as much as it is any other aspect, really.
Mm-hmm. Matt?
Yeah, I think we want to have the reputation of being easy to work with, smart, and also people that can help you. And it's not just about you help us. So I think there's a few things when we source. Number one, I've mentioned before, we can help companies grow into Saudi Arabia, which is one of the largest economies in the Gulf. You want to get your technology or your company into that region. We also have a tremendous team in Japan. We want to help you grow into Japan. It's the third largest economy in the world. It's a bridgeway to the rest of Asia. If you can get your US tech into Japan, which is a very insular market, so is Saudi, you can really grow your company a lot. And when we do that, we don't take money for it. We just invest alongside you. And if the company does well, we do well. So there's a true alignment of interest. So it's a win-win. We try to say, look, we're easy. We have a lot of integrity. We're good people, but we also can help you. It's not just about you helping us. I think the other thing is for me, I've had the same relationships the last 20 years. I spent a year doing research at Harvard Business School before I went to law school. The professor I work for is on the board of my fund, a very well-known Harvard Business School professor. One of my advisors, Steve Papa, I've known since Harvard the year he had started a company called Endeca, which he sold to Oracle. He recently started Toast. He's one of our big investments, a company called Parallel Wireless, which is a 5G technology. My partner in the fund I went to law school with, I've known him 20 years. I'm a true believer in having long-term relationships, treating people well. And I think it's not about just winning on one deal. It's about life and having lifelong partners. And we've been fortunate to, I think, build a good reputation in the marketplace to be able to do that.
Right. So we talked about technology. So how do you see technology in the future, and how are you using it now in your practice?
Technology is definitely much more in use now. It's like everything we've gone to, it kind of sort of forced, the COVID has forced the electronic revolution in getting rid of paper and making things go more digital. So the technology has definitely affected the family office and investment world tremendously over the past 20 years. And it was sort of like you were forced into it because of the pandemic.
Right. Any particular sectors that you like on the technology side?
No, we're not really focused. We have small allocation to that, but renewables. We're going energy, also renewables energy, but not technology. Nothing specific.
Marissa?
Technology will be the nucleus of every industry and sector moving forward. I am particularly interested in transportation, technology around transportation and infrastructure, agriculture. I'm a principal partner in technology parks being developed overseas. And I think it's just critical that we make sure that we're always staying on the cutting edge of what's being developed, because, what's new and innovative today will decidedly be not new and innovative tomorrow. So it's making sure that you're constantly looking for and sometimes moving away from differing technologies and innovations.
Matt, technology with you?
Yeah, it's a core to what we do. Thank God for technology so I can be with you today. But in terms of areas, autonomous driving, the 5G economy, we do a lot. We're invested in the company I mentioned, Steve Papa, Parallel Wireless. 5G to us is a tremendous opportunity. We think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. We have all sort of countries around the world trying to get 5G connectivity. Some have, and the implications of that from an artificial intelligence, smart cities, fintech, cybersecurity, edge computing, sustainable technology. I think I could go on. Food and ag tech, food security. There's a lot of areas that we're bullish on. We don't do a lot of biotech, that just because we don't know it, but we sort of, in terms of disruptive technology, those are some of the key areas that we believe in.
Right. So now a hot topic is in sustainability. How do you best describe what sustainability is?
Sustainability in the energy sector?
Just overall. Obviously that's a hot topic right now, but I would say sustainability as far as investment-wise. A lot of people are using that as an investment mandate when they're making selections, if it's sustainable. Maybe, Larissa, you can chime in and we have the discussion about that.
The UN has given us a phenomenal framework with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They've really isolated the 17 most important goals that we need to be focusing on for the future and the 169 targets therein. And for anyone that wants to make an investment around sustainable development, if you align yourself with any of the sustainable development goals, you're giving yourself not only a phenomenal vehicle for investment, but, you're checking your corporate social responsibility boxes, and you can really share with your stakeholders and your clients, the impact that will allow you to be a major contributor to keeping us alive environmentally, socially, and economically.
Matt?
Yeah, it's an interesting area. Obviously, the impact investing world has blown up in the last few years. We participated in a conference at Harvard about 4 years ago, which brought some of the top families around the world together to talk about impact investing. And in some places, it was kind of a negative connotation. I don't know how everyone feels about it today, but we always, as a family office, believe that we want to be a catalyst for this field and try to encourage people to think about how they can use their investments to do good for the world. And when you talk about sustainable technology, obviously there's different degrees. I mean, and there's different interpretations. But for us, it's finding ways to help the world, but also help the bottom line, help our investments. So as an example, we're invested in a company called Light Matter, which is photonics, quantum computing. They're cutting down energy usage in data centers by tremendous orders of magnitude. So for us, I mean, that's a sustainable technology, but a very good investment for at least what we believe. So I think it depends on how you look at the world and what your investment mandate is. But for us, it's a big part of how we look at the world and how we invest.
Right. What about blockchain? What do you think about the future of blockchain?
I think it's definitely going to be here. It's going to be much more relevant in the next years, especially with countries adopting it now globally. It's going to be a currency that we're going to be able to use, and you won't have to be tied to your fiat currencies in your foreign countries. So I think blockchain will be significant. We don't do that on the family office side because we have to make sure that we don't conflict with anything that's done on the business side of it. But yeah, blockchain is here to stay, and I think it's just going to only grow bigger.
Larissa?
See, and I see blockchain and cryptocurrency as being completely separate from one another, and they too often blur, but the blockchain itself is going to, again, be one of those elements that touches every industry and sector. I mean, our records are going to be on a blockchain where we can access them all around the world. Agriculture is on a blockchain. You'll be able to tell, the beef that's on your plate through the blockchain and the records, where that originated, from conception to consumption. And just about everything we have will be connected to a blockchain of accessibility and security. And so the blockchain is going to factor greatly into all industries and sectors moving forward.
Matt?
So I have very little to add on this one. Not an area that we do a lot, but obviously hear so much about it, blockchain, Bitcoin, all these kind of hot areas. The biggest thing for me is investing in what I know and knowing what I don't know. And this is one area we have not taken the leap, but maybe that's shame on us, but we're still learning about the area and, evolving a bit on that.
So then, in that case, let's move on to cryptocurrency. Are we going to be using crypto from now on?
From now on, I think some people will be using it from now on. The global adoption, again, is going to be growing over the years. But I think it should be part of everybody's, a small portion of their portfolio, but I think cryptocurrency is definitely here to stay.
What are your thoughts?
I'm a slow adopter. It's not going anywhere, and I think it's only going to really gain a lot more traction as we move forward. But for me personally, I have a big learning curve ahead and much more education that needs to be gleaned from the knowledgeable experts out there that are greater than myself at this point.
Matt, crypto?
Again, not an area that I'm super familiar with, but was at a great conference, the SALT conference with Anthony Scaramucci, who I believe is also maybe speaking at this conference, or at least I thought he was. But I know that we had a great conference and we talked a lot about this area. It seems like it's the world is headed here. It's the biggest kind of opportunity. I hope people do well. It's just not an area that we know a lot about.
Right. Which actually, as we've asked some questions, I know sometimes there's a hesitancy, which leads me into confidentiality. When you're dealing with the family office, how does confidentiality affect how you invest? Because sometimes you can't disclose what you're looking at. How do you see confidentiality playing a role in the family office world?
confidentiality is the key. It's like, I'm even like, hesitant of what I can divulge here. Because it's like, you're associated with a big trader, and you don't want to ever, insinuate that what I'm doing is exactly what he's doing and is public fund, because, everything that we invest in, we have to get cleared through through the public fund. So confidentiality is crucial. I think it's more crucial in my current position, is because we have an active trader who this is his business. He trades on a daily basis. So I don't, it wouldn't want to divulge anything, or even have people assume that what I'm doing in the family office is what he's doing in his public portfolio.
Larissa?
You don't hear me talking about any of the families. And for sure, I spent many great years in the Middle East, but again, it's all confidentiality is the center point to any longevity in investing on behalf of families and family offices. So to me, that's one of the most paramount aspects, and I think a great value that we all add is our ability to maintain that.
Mm-hmm. Matt, I'm going to leave it for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I started my career as an attorney, so everything, attorney-client privilege, everything for me has always been discretion. The one area in our portfolio that is more public is our fund, which we started out of the family office and partnered with, again, a large large telecom in Japan. All that's public, so I can talk about that. You can see the investments we've done and how that's going. But in general, I mean, it's the lifeblood, and it's something that obviously the family wants to keep to themselves. We have a very, internal processes and contracts and privacy and all those things that are very critical to our existence and to our continuation. So, absolutely.
Right. So, Larissa and Matt, you both deal with royal families. How do you get involved with the royal family, and what does that mandate look like to work with a royal family?
Matt, I'll let you take this one.
Thank you.
These are difficult questions to answer when you're talking about.
For me, I started again as an attorney, and I was representing a lot of high-profile clients, professional athletes, high net worths, business executives. So I was just referred clients from a family, and that's how I got into it. And obviously, we had a great chemistry, a great relationship, great trust. But it's obviously an important issue. Whoever you work for, you need to understand what their background is and what their desires and needs are. I think for us, we obviously have extra level of confidentiality and privacy, and but we also have the benefit of having, I think, positives in the Middle East in terms of being able to have a strategic focus in that area, be able to help technologies grow into a region that we think can add a lot of value to the people's lives in the Middle East. So for me, it's a tremendous honor to be able to build bridges between the world, between countries, between people. So I look at it in the light of, how can we utilize this relationship that's best for the family and best for the world.
Great. Did you want to take a stab at it, or?
No, it takes a bit longer to achieve the level of trust that is necessary for you to be the steward of the funds of some very important and progressive families around the world. But, it's interesting because they have there's varying levels of risk, various appetites for investment, and what's coming out of the Middle East particularly is great strides in areas that the rest of the world has really been slow to embrace, and therefore they've positioned themselves very well as the leaders who are driving this new transformational future. So it allows you to look at some of these really compelling new technologies and industries and sectors that are really still below the radar for many of the other areas of the world.
Okay, great. What about tax strategies? Anything, taxes continuously rise. Anything that you're using in your practices for tax planning?
Well, in the prior family I was with, it's like we did get into the hedge fund world a lot, but we really felt that this is long-term money. This is really money that is for the next generation. So we pulled all our money out of the hedge funds because it just really wasn't tax efficient. So what we do, we switched our focus to just long-term growth, capital appreciation. To, hopefully that the capital gains rate doesn't go up to no ordinary income because that changes everything we've done. But you're constantly aware of the taxes and you're constantly paying attention to the changes. But then we did, consciously change to get away from the tax inefficient investments and move more to just the long-term growth because, if you can live off your money now, but if you're saving it for the next generation, you really just want to avoid the taxes for as long as you can.
Larissa?
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
Long-term growth is key.
Yeah.
And, when you invest with families that aren't necessarily American, you have to be aware of what the tax regulations are pretty much around the world. And fortunate that in some of the places that we work, we don't have those challenges, but, especially for Americans investing, it's the long-term strategies.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, we have an offshore and onshore. We have, I think, just an amazing tax lawyer. So I think that's my answer, making sure that we look at every opportunity that we do in the most tax efficient way possible.
Right. One of the strategies for tax planning or mitigation of taxes is conservation. What are you doing on the side of conservation?
Well, we're big into conservation and wildlife, but that's really been a passion of Paul's. It's like he wants to repopulate the rhinoceros population in Africa. So it's one of his passions in life. So he really takes that to heart, and it's amazing what he's done for the people in many African countries. And so it's just really paramount in his thinking that and all across the United States too. We have a lot of land, and it's more about repopulating the forests and rhinoceros in Africa. So yeah, his conservation of wildlife is one of his passions.
Larissa, anything on conservation?
Ties over to sustainability and being a big investor in agriculture. It's important that we look at the role that agriculture plays in conservation and carbon management and carbon sequestration and understanding cover crops and no-till agriculture and understanding how the importance of livestock and how to really position, the future of innovative agriculture so that we're making a positive impact to sustainability, to conservation, to nutrient management, carbon management. It's all very key to the future.
Matt?
Yeah, no, same. I mean, we also have a pretty large foundation that the family has that helps with saving the oceans and it deals with a lot of different causes, but conservation is an important one. And, one of the areas we're also looking potentially, we have this high tech fund, but we're also looking to potentially launch a food and ag tech fund that would have also the Middle Eastern strategic angle. Because of some of the issues that exist. So it's a great question, something we're passionate about.
Right. Let's talk about us going to space. How do you think that's going to change things?
That's really. Right now, it's just a fun ride, right? So, I think with commercialization of the space industry, it's going to help more satellites. So, we're not particularly investing in that yet. But I think it's the next frontier. I mean, you have 3 billionaires right now working for space travel or subspace travel. So I think that's definitely the next wave of tourism, space tourism, and space commerce. So,
Could be. Larissa, any thoughts?
I'll watch the launches on CNN when they're happening, but for me, we have enough of a challenge here on planet Earth to deal with. We have a very narrow period of time to be able to reverse the direction that we're heading. If we don't, we'll essentially put the planet in hospice and it will be unrecoverable. So for me, my priority is really the sustainability here on Earth, and I'll let space travel to those with much more free cash and risk than I can afford to have.
Yeah, it could be an escape for some people, but in any event. Matt, thoughts on space?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's same with, I agree with the panelists, but we haven't invested in SpaceX, or we've looked at companies in Japan that are doing some amazing things. Look, it's incredible, the technology and the worlds that are being brought closer together, which is a huge focus of ours as a family office. But it's not something that we have a specific focus on, or, we're obviously support the idea and excited where the future is going.
Right. So we talked a lot about taxes and sustainability, conservation. Just to kind of end things off here, what would you say the top 3 investment ideas are, categories for the next 3 to 5 years are?
It's top 3. I mean, I think solar is an important one. Renewable battery technology is new with the EV evolution of all the cars. So solar battery technology. Can't think of a third one.
We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Marissa, what are your top 3?
For me, it's agri-tech, EV, and drones are my 3.
Sure. That's thinking.
Yeah, well, look, I think autonomous driving, I think sustainable technology like the light matter that I mentioned before, reducing energy usage. And I think cybersecurity is a continued, it's always been big the last few years, but even more so. I think it will continue to evolve and be an important area as well.
Right. What about hydrogen? I know there's been a big discussion about hydrogen. Any thoughts on hydrogen replacing the current model for these battery-operated cars?
We haven't really looked into that, so wouldn't have any comments there.
I think it's a narrow margin between the EV and the hydrogen. I sort of err on the hydrogen side. I think that's where we're going to be looking moving forward to a greater degree than we are now. But, there's still some compelling reasons to both, and it's still in its infancy. So we'll see where we wind up in the next 5 or 10 years.
Matt?
Yeah, still, again, this area I think fascinates me, but I still don't have a strong enough opinion on it to give an answer. I think it's a part of where our future is headed, but I don't necessarily have a strong answer either way.
And the last question here is, what do you think is the next pandemic, the next political landscape? Is one thing that you're actually most afraid of for the future?
Is that this pandemic doesn't end.
It's a good thought.
Well, and we have, the next one and the next one and the next one queued up. We have African swine flu that we're watching spread across the world. And, so I think the key now is to just recognize that we can't get caught in the cattle chutes of our legacy business models. We have to make sure that we're always preparing to be able to easily pivot and cast away that legacy business model and really prepare ourselves to be a part of this ever ongoing disruptive pattern that we'll be seeing for now and evermore, pretty much.
Matt?
I think I have a broader answer, and it relates to the way we see the world, but it's collaboration in terms of the countries around the world being able to work together, both, in terms of innovation, but also being able to have international relations to bring technologies into other markets, to grow, to support one another. So I think that there's one of the most important things is how the world works together, not against one another, in supporting technology, growing technology, and supporting innovation.
All right. With that, I think we're out of time. So thank you all. Appreciate it. And see you all soon.